Hi, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending where you are, of course. My name is Vivian Aqua, and I'm the workplace wellness advocate of 𝗙𝗵𝗲𝗃, and I help organizations with keeping their people healthy, happy, and safe. And today's session will be all about harmonizing the workplace or creating more harmony in the workplace, and which is a fitting topic for let's humanize the workplace. And the reason why I started this broadcast was I was receiving so many comments from people, but also from HR people, about what can we do to create a better sphere, what can we do to retain our talent, but also what can we do to hire new talents, right? So that's why I'm doing this broadcast on let's humanize the workplace. And let's humanize the workplace. It's very important that you share. So please share the love, or don't forget to react to this live broadcast. And also let me know if you can hear my voice, or you can hear if the sound is very clear, because that's also important, very important. And to link this topic, or to link let's humanize the workplace broadcast, I'm doing this mainly because of the Sustainable Development Goals. And I believe that yesterday was a very important day, that we made a commitment of, at least if there was an international commitment, to change the world, to make the world a bit green. And I'm putting in my added value for these to help the world, or help the workplace become more sustainable, by looking after the well-being, but also looking after the career well-being, and also reducing inequalities. There are so many, topics on this chart which I touch, but today will be about decent work and well-being, and more about the human factor. Before I introduce my next guest, I wanted to share a video with you. So please bear in mind. Let me know if you can hear that. Oh, I have to use another screen, sorry. It's about a recent story, and I wanted to share this story because it's so important that you, if you're in a certain position, so if you're a HR manager, a leader, or an employee, please let me know what you think about this story, because I think it's really important that we need to discuss this topic, and I'm really curious about what you think about this. So let me know. I'm going to start now.
Luggage company 𝗚𝗏 has been long beloved by celebrities and stylish travelers. But journalist 𝗧𝗹𝗶𝘁 of The Verge uncovered what some former employees are calling a, quote, toxic workplace environment. We spoke with 𝗪𝗿 amid the news of 𝗚𝗏's CEO, 𝗪𝗏𝗺𝗃, stepping down.
The reality on the ground was a little different from what the values looked like from the website.
𝗪𝗿 said her reporting started with a different story on workplace bullying.
After that came out, I got an email from a source, and she said, what you wrote really made me think about my time at 𝗚𝗏. How can a brand be so beloved by the general public and make a ton of money, but be such a toxic working environment for the people there?
𝗪𝗿 said she spoke to more than a dozen people at the company.
It was a mix of customer experience managers and associates, people who'd been at the organization for years. It was people on the legal team who'd had their own experience of what they said was a toxic environment and management. It was people on the brand and marketing team whose mandate was to put forth this image of this empowering company. People were saying there's a lot of bullying, there's abuse, but I was like, I need to know how that actually manifests. And they said, oh, we have a lot of screenshots.
Here's what she found.
So the first point is that employees at 𝗚𝗏 are really being pushed to the breaking point. They're being asked to work incredibly long hours, 15 and 16-hour days. A lot of the time, they're working for pretty low pay. The second thing is that it's all taking place on public Slack channels.
𝗪𝗿 said the former employees told her 𝗚𝗏's policy was intended to promote inclusivity and transparency. In reality, they say they faced public shaming.
Hi, I'm Steph, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of 𝗏𝗏.
You would hear the CEO, 𝗏𝗏𝘁𝗁 typing, and you knew something bad was going to happen. You could hear it, and the whole office would kind of tense up, saying like, okay, who's she going to go into next? And then they would just see message after message start coming in where she was nitpicking a particular mistake that someone had made, and everyone would kind of just be looking around like, oof, is that person okay? Like, this feels really bad. And so it turned feedback into kind of a spectator sport almost.
Schiffer said 6 former employees told her they were fired for participating in a private Slack channel for people of color and LGBTQ colleagues.
Sometimes they would joke about, a boss who wasn't quite woke or didn't quite get it. And so they would make little comments like that. Sometimes they would complain about a customer who was really frustrating.
In light of Schiffer's reporting, more and more employees are coming forward.
People are actually coming forward on Twitter and saying, they're actually putting their names out there for the first time, which is a really big change.
Some buyers are now canceling or returning their recently placed orders. Before she
I want to welcome the first guest speaker, Diane Carter, and she is a personal transformation coach for women who are ready to change the status quo. And she's also a head of information management and deputy CIO for an international criminal tribunal. She knows people, she really knows people, and she understands how they work and how they don't work. Welcome, Diane.
Thank you very much for having me.
And I'm also going to pull up
my voice for today.
I'm also going to pull up Faith. Faith has always worked in an international company that thrives on diversity. Till date, she has gained 6 years of experience in making an organization a great place for its employee to thrive in. Welcome, Faith.
Hi, everyone.
Hi. So you just recently watched the story about 𝗏𝗏𝘁. What is your first thing? Just share 3 words. What do you think about this video? And it's just a week old. It's not even a week old. It was created on the 10th of December.
I would say it's very interesting. I have a different perspective. I have a different perspective about the whole toxic, work environment conversation that is happening, as far as a lot of personal responsibility needs to be had as well. Whereas I feel a lot of people aren't really taking ownership for themselves of who they are and what their boundaries are, and then they're blaming other people when they don't actually establish those boundaries. It's really about knowing yourself and what you're willing to put up with, instead of claiming victimhood for what you put yourself in the midst of. So those kinds of stories, they don't really fly really well with me. Just from a perspective of their
that's very good. That's very good. Yeah, and Faith, what about you?
Yeah, adding on, what really stood out was about psychological safety. It's also about being clear about what you can tolerate and what you choose not to tolerate, and walking away from that kind of environment as well. And my other thought is around there are always positive and negative things people have to say about an organization, and it doesn't always paint a complete picture.
Right? Yeah, true. I forgot to mention that if you're watching this episode now, please use the #TeamLive, or if you're watching on the replay, please use the #replay, so that we know that when you're engaging, and don't afterwards, then that's totally fine. So don't worry, nobody's going to know that, and we'll be discreetful. So the first question: what creates inharmonious work environments, and how do you get around that? Shall I start with Faith first, and then?
Yeah, so I shared earlier psychological safety, and that's again for me the most important thing. And if I really break this down, I'll focus on say 2 to 3 areas, which is around interpersonal conflict between colleagues, especially in a like these days, it's so international in the workforce, different cultural norms. But besides that, there is also different communication styles. A lot of conflict arises from not understanding each other. And my tip here is to talk about it, to be open about it, to address any disagreement. But of course, if there isn't psychological safety, then you might be afraid to give feedback or to talk about disagreements in a constructive manner. The other element is around the lack of shared vision, not knowing, what is the role that you play in the organization? How do you contribute towards that? Feeling that sense of belonging. And if you don't have that coming from top down, then what you can do as a person is to come up with what you think you can best contribute in the role that you're in, and to have that discussion around it. And finally, it's...
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Yes,
No.
Continue. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah,
because you touched. No, I'm going to share it because you touched the basic that the employee can, lead themselves in this case. But also, I feel like as an organization, you can also raise awareness. Just raising awareness. That's all I'm asking. Not only taking responsibility, but raise awareness. Organize these conversations, or organize, these table talk sessions where where you create that safety to have these conversations.
Yes, and therefore be the change that you want to see, right? And it starts with each of us. If we're in an environment where unfortunately it just doesn't happen, you have to initiate it, then take that step. And you'll be amazed to see how many people start to raise their hands and join in with you. So that's
true. And Diane?
No, I totally agree with Faith as far as be the change that you want to see. Because a lot of times inharmonious work environments come from misunderstandings, from cultural disagreements, from things that are so small but left unchecked grow and grow and grow, and then they get to this place where you don't feel like you have any control over the situation anymore. And unfortunately, but
what if you're working in an environment where you're the only one who's advocating for something positive? Because that can also make you feel like you're alone, or nobody hears you, and you feel there is a disconnect.
Well, you have to also understand that not everybody is the same, and not everybody is going to advocate for the same things. So while you may be unhappy, everyone else may be quite happy. It just depends on the type of environment that you're in. For example, I've worked in an institution previously where there were mainly very reclusive, introverted, engineering types. And it was a very small population of the work environment that, were like, there's no life to this company, or whatever. Everybody else was fine. They were quite happy. But it was a very small group that wanted to see some change. So it's not always the work environment that whose responsibility it is to create things. It's in my opinion, a two-way street. Whereas a company should take every responsibility that they can to make sure that they are creating, fostering an environment where people can feel safe, they can feel comfortable, they feel good about coming to work. But it's also an employee, staff member's responsibility they should know themselves, like what motivates me, what makes me happy, what brings me joy, and to take responsibility for including those things into their daily practice that makes them happy. If that means starting a peer-to-peer club or at lunchtime once a week so they can get more, conversation, do that. If that means, I'm going to start a nature club and we're going to go walking, every Friday, do that. But it's a two-way street in this whole thing.
And to what Diana shared earlier on, it's being able to identify, what are the values that's important to you? What are the things that makes you want to go to work? What is the kind of job that you want to do? If you identify these things, it helps you to then take a look at how happy you are today in whatever organization you're in, if they're able to provide you with what's important to you. And if you are preparing for a next job search, then coming up with questions to assess if that future company can provide you with these as well. Otherwise, you might be joining another company, but not
with the same mistakes. Yeah. True. Yes, true. So the next question is from Diane. You wanted to know what the motivation was for me for improving workplace wellness. With me, I had 5 managers within one company, a company of 30 people, all mainly men. And once I became pregnant, that was like I was written off as a woman. And I realized that experience on its own wasn't positive for me, especially when I was looking at my son Orlando, who's now 6 years old. I wanted to be that happy mom. I know that I am a role model. I know that he's looking up to me. And I call him my life coach, and he made that change happen to help companies, help people strive for a better well-being at the workplace. Because we spent, at least I started my career when I was 20 and I'm turning 40 next year. So the most average employee spends from his 20s till his 65th year at the workplace. So 45 years at the workplace. Why not help the people become more resilient, become more happy, become more productive, energized? Because it's also a way for the company to build on that. You can gain the best ambassador within the company.
Exactly. Understood.
Yeah. Yes. And the next thing, it's also important how to deal with a toxic coworker, because we touched on the environment. Or you want me to go on to the next question? Because I feel like the environment is different when it's a team thing, but when it's a coworker or a manager, a lot of people leave because of their managers or because of that person who is really affecting your happiness. And sometimes they can. Sometimes, even though I've been in situations where I try to build a relationship to work, but that person didn't value me. And that's when that's when it's a case that I need to withdraw myself and maybe I need to leave the company. That's the thing. What do you want to say about that?
I've been in situations where I've had a toxic coworker, and it was really a opportunity for me to figure out, why was that person? Why let that person bother me? Why was I giving so much power over me to control my behavior, my emotions, my outlook, my day, my night? Sleep over it. So first, it was a gift. Kind of wrapped in some not so nice paper, but a gift. And then to be able to unwrap the second gift in that, which is for me to be able to exercise speaking up for myself. and what that meant, what that looked like for me. And in that regard, I could feel good. Even if I couldn't change that person, even if I couldn't change the situation or scenario, I could walk in to that environment feeling good. In that regard, once like that had happened, then ratcheting it up another level as far as to have a conversation outside of the two of us. So basically, you're setting the boundary. You're letting them know, this behavior is causing this. We feel this way. Can we talk about it? Maybe there's something I'm not seeing that we can discuss. If it's still not a situation scenario that's moving forward, then it's a third party, whether that's some companies have some companies have staff or offer, some companies have staff, but if you feel comfortable involving your manager in that regard, if you want to keep it neutral.
If the manager or if somebody, a third person, a third layer, such as HR, is listening and acting up upon that, though, because you can talk, but there are also situations where you talk to the manager or somebody who is in charge, or HR or whatever. You talk to them and they do nothing, or it feels like they do nothing.
And then to me, that's the trigger to go. Because then at that point, you've done what you were supposed to do, right? In that regard, to set your boundaries, to be respectful, to come from a place of professionalism, right? And if you have still gotten no positive feedback, or still not being seen, or feel like you've been heard, then that's a key indicator that you probably won't be going forward, right? So it's one of those things where we get these opportunities in life where they're real check-in moments as to what really is your boundary, and are you going to honor that for yourself? Are you going to honor yourself in those moments, or are you going to put yourself away on a shelf and prioritize other things, other people above you, and your own well-being? Then,
yeah,
that's well said. And Faith, what?
So adding on to that, in terms of what we can do, well, so I've experienced this with a colleague, as well as a team member that reports into me, but was very toxic. And what I have observed is that usually people who are supposedly toxic fear. They don't have psychological safety. So what I've tried to do is to see how I can create that positive and supporting environment for them. But it obviously takes a lot of time and effort.
And energy.
Yeah, and there are different ways to do this. It could be positive, reinforcing things, giving them time and space, or what Diane has shared about feedback. And there are days where you as a person, you're very low on energy, and that's when it's a good moment to keep a distance as well, so that you're able to kind of keep your energy level balanced and keep your sanity. And what I came to realize quite recently was how each of us, without realizing, we can be contributing to this toxic environment as well with complaints. It's so easy to just turn to your neighbor at the desk to complain about what just happened or what isn't going well. And if that person is also feeling a lot of frustrations, it just ends up into a lot of rants and complaints. So what I've now started to do is to, when somebody complains to me about something, I give them that space to talk about it. But at the next moment, I ask them questions to try and coach them as well, and turn that conversation from a complaint into a positive, actionable thing.
So maybe we should implement then on the even days, No complaints days.
Right on.
Yes, no complaints days. So thank you for sharing. I want to fast forward to the next thing, because you shared something about the coworker, but what can managers do to create more harmony? What can they do to enforce people? Because sometimes not everybody is as talkative as we are. Not everybody can stand up. There are maybe some introverts in the workplace that are dealing with extroverted people, like maybe me. But what can managers do to include everybody?
They can do many things. And
just share three.
Yeah. Now they can definitely get the team to talk, about what are their team norms, what is each of their identity, their strengths, their areas of development, create this understanding, but also make it a safe environment where people can share, and always lead back to then, how can we support each other? How can we work together? Making sure that there are team goals, people know how they contribute and towards a common goal, so that it creates that collaborative environment as well. So that's in a few points.
And Diane?
Yeah, I would say I've had some really great managers. I'm a lucky bird. And I've got a really great one right now as well. And I'll tell you why I feel like what makes a great manager. And the ones that have really stood out to me are the ones that really knew who they were. Like they were rock solid, like in who they were as people. So it wasn't like they could be shaken very easily by someone's opinion, or someone's having a temper tantrum. It's like, okay, you're having a moment, go sit for a second and I'll see you in a minute type thing. And number two, they understood the value in knowing the team. So whether that meant team building activity where they would have everyone take like a Myers-Briggs personality assessment, or they would have a profile done on the team to understand, okay, who were the doers, who were the dreamers, who were the detail-oriented ones, and then they would play to people's strengths instead of, trying to just make a square, peg fit into the circle. That they would
Can you repeat that again? That needs to be repeated. Please repeat that.
They would really try to get to know their team and to encourage their team to get to know themselves as individuals as well. So then they will really, it's like let a Ferrari be a Ferrari. You know what I mean? It's like if you've got a team member and their engine is hot and they come in every day and they're the morning person and they're making the coffee for everybody and they're just bright, happy sunshine, then play to that person's strength versus the one that is the introvert that really doesn't want to be bothered, but they're so good with details, and have them, dig into the numbers and the things of everything, or to just allow people to be themselves instead of implementing a whole lot of unnecessary rules simply because the rule book said so, but to see the human in the work as well as, the worker bee. But this person is also, they have a heart, they have a brain, they have a soul, they have a mind, they have love, they have dreams, they have a family, they are human. And to actually, work together as a human team instead of trying to push robots, up the hill, that kind of thing. And those were the greatest managers that I've had that understood human design.
Did you tell your current manager now? Does he know that?
Oh, I've told him. Like that. He's a good one. He's a good egg. He's a good egg.
Good. And Faith, you asked me the following question if one aspect of well-being weighs more than the other, and the subject to the person, so which one is most important? Like Diane said, right? We all have different values, different mindset, different goals, different things that we like. Our purpose is different, and therefore our well-being, the thing that we put on our number one or maybe our top three regarding well-being, is also different for each person. I can only share what I do feel that we need to pay more attention to, and that is regarding mental well-being. Because I see the numbers getting higher regarding stress and burnout. And also, when you enter a company, you get the question like, where do you want to be in 2 or maybe in 5 years? And I would like the recruiters or the manager or those who are in the hiring committee to ask the person they are interviewing, what do you need from us to achieve that position? Challenge them in their career well-being. I've seen so many companies where people sit in the same function. It doesn't matter if you're working for the same company for 20 years, but if you're holding the same job description with no variation in that job, 5 to 10 years or 10 years or longer, that's when I question myself, are you happy in your career? Are you happy, on other areas? And are you only working there for just financial safety? We need to challenge the people more when it comes to their career.
But I would say though, you have to, what just happened?
You have to, and then it was you have to, and then it got stuck.
Strange. No, but you have to understand that we're all individuals. The same way I just said, you cannot force, a square peg into a hole. I have worked with people that have done the exact same thing for 30 years, and they have been the happiest folks, the happiest, because their work was not their life. Their life was outside. Their work was simply a means for them to be able to do what they wanted to do in their lives, but they understood that the way the world is set up, we must work, right? But it was not their identity. And I feel like a lot of disharmoniousness in the workplace comes when we have made our work our identity, and we don't have any other valuation upon ourselves to feel good at the end of the day. And so when something goes wrong at work because we've wrapped our entire identity into it, like our whole world crumbles. And that is one of the things that, like, I've been blessed, just to see in my career along the way, that they're different strokes for different folks. There are some that are, let the Ferrari be the Ferrari, let the turtle be the turtle, you know what I mean? Let the mermaid be the mermaid. And there are some that just, as a workplace, allow the conversations to happen. Have the opportunity for those that want to, but don't force everyone to be a Ferrari or racer,
It's more encouraging people to think beyond their not safety net, but their own zone, right? That's the only thing that I'm challenging people or challenging organizations, just to nudge the people to think beyond their own perspective. That's all.
Right on.
And this one is a goodie, because my son, who is at the moment 6 years old, but when he was 4, he started going to school, and eventually I was talking with my partner, and all of a sudden he told us, that's fixed mindset. And I was like, where did you learn that? Because it took me like ages to learn about fixed mindset and growth mindset. And I was looking at my partner, and he was like, I didn't teach him. And I asked him, where did you learn that? And he said, at school, it's a daily ritual that they exercise their growth mindset. So it's also a good thing for him to use at school, because when he doesn't feel like doing something, I say, you're not exercising your growth mindset. So he knows that now. But now the adults, what can we do to help those or encourage those to leave their fixed mindset behind?
Well, so I'm actually really curious, like, what do they actually, what is in that daily ritual in the school?
Oh, they have like sheets.
Yeah.
They have a sheet on the wall where they are sharing examples. What is a fixed mindset? So a fixed mindset is saying, I can't do that. And a growth mindset is, I'll try and do my best. Even though today I didn't, complete it, but every day that I'm learning, every day that I'm trying is a growth mindset. So everything that you're doing to stretch your mindset for a possibility, that's what he's learning. And they are learning, he's a child. So they are teaching the growth and the fixed mindset on a very childish way, but it's even working for adults. So yeah.
Yeah, sometimes that's like the most powerful way to learn. But yeah, indeed, right? It's a mindset. It doesn't just happen overnight, and it's about doing it every day, repeatedly. So earlier on, I shared about, positive reinforcing learnings. It's so easy for somebody with a fixed mindset to feel that they have failed when something didn't go as they had planned. As colleagues, as manager, you could then, help them to see the positive out of it. But what have you learned from it? What can you do to avoid that from happening again? Celebrating successes or things that have may not have gone as planned, but you still made progress over there. And again, earlier on, I shared about how typically people with fixed mindset, they probably don't feel that safe. They feel a bit insecure. So creating that supportive environment.
I wholeheartedly
Diane,
agree.
do you add on?
No, I agree, because the most fixed mindset environments that I've been in are ones that the company did not encourage risk taking. Like it was any taking of a risk was, you were going to get pummeled if it wasn't successful. If it succeeded, yay. But if it didn't, you were kind of thing. And so
it also sounds like this is how we work, right? And every time every time you hear that sentence, like, this is the way we have done it all this time, this is how we're supposed to do that, it also disencourages somebody to share or maybe make a positive change.
With safety, it's like they say, if you feel safe in what is already an established practice, and if I follow this established practice, I'm not giving you any reason to single me out for whatever, is happening. And because, I know particularly in the States, where it's very much at will, you're at will employed, where you can be let go at any point in time, but you can leave at any point in time. It's a situation where you don't really want to put your head up too many times above the water, because it's like whack-a-mole, type thing. And so you follow, the established practice. You follow the herd. You stay, low and slow, and you're good, type thing. But in other environments, where you have more security, I feel like it's more of a. I've seen, what you're describing as far as, let's try something new. Or if one other thing that I've seen work is when they've brought in a consultant and done like a lean kind of methodology practice, to where you just identify and you analyze the work processes, and you almost make a game out of it. Well, how can we make it better? How can we shave a day off of this? Or how can we, and whoever can figure out how to shave a day off of this, you get a day off, or, or something like that, And that encouraged it in such a way that people felt comfortable, you know, then having more of a mindset of how do we grow the business in a different way? How do we grow our production, our productivity, our professionalism? How do I grow myself in a different way?
I do know that when you add gamification, or when you let people, you know, act like children and think like children and be like children, that something positive can happen. So I definitely do agree that gamification is a good way of doing that. The time flew, but I'm going to ask one last question, because I think it's also important. How can companies create better working environments?
How can companies
One
create
thing.
better working environments? Come on.
If you could choose one thing, yes, one thing. What's the most important?
I mean, this is going to sound very cliche, but because I've said it, I think, before, but it's when a company sees their staff member as a human being and not a number.
Yeah.
And you can see that in the staff rules. You can see that in how things are set up, as far as, you know, if it's very pop machine kind of oriented, as if, you know, you get 10 minutes for this break, you get this for this, and that's it, and you don't do this and you don't do that, and, you know, you feel more like a machine than you do a person. And to create a more, you know, harmonious environment where people can thrive and create and want to win. You know what I mean? It's like when you want to win because you want to see your boss win. You want to see your teammates win. It's a collective winning process. It's when, like, you really see each other. Like, I see the human in me, sees the human in you, and I want us all to win.
And that means
a good one.
Also, that also means making sure that's inclusive. It caters to everyone of whatever color their skin is, and you know, how they feel about themselves as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I do feel like that, because yesterday we had yesterday or the day before, we had a good conversation about inclusive diversity, which is also a thing that it's important, and you address the culture aspect as well, especially in Amsterdam or in the Netherlands. I see so many international people working for international companies, and I wonder that cultural aspect, because in different parts of the globe, people who are not speaking back, that's also a cultural thing, right? And in the different parts of the globe, like the Dutch people, we can be very direct sometimes, a bit, some people can say it's a bit harsh. So once you share these particularities or the cultures with each other, not only through food but also through you know, a dialogue, I think you can create more harmonious workplaces. So ladies, I would like to say thank you to you both. I really enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed it as well. Please stay. I'm going to announce the next speaker, so please don't leave this episode. And I'm going to announce the next speaker. So the next speaker will be 𝗪𝗲𝘀 and Mary Jane Roy, and we are going to talk about why are your people leaving? So what can we do to help the people stay in the workplace? So see you next time, and please, like I said before, please share the love or share this post. And if you have any questions afterwards, please leave a comment in the broadcast so that I can address them, or Diane and Faith can address them, and tag us in your question. So thank you, and until tomorrow, bye.